White Company. The White Company was a famous English mercenary group in Italy in the 14th century. Formed during the Hundred Years' War, the group was led by Sir John Hawkwood, a military commander skilled in war strategy and tactics. They are best known for their role in conflicts between Italian cities, including Florence, Pisa, and Milan, which often competed for political and military dominance. The group consisted of highly trained veterans of the Hundred Years' War, including archers and heavy infantry. Their innovative tactics, such as the use of tight formations and the combination of long-range arrows and long spears, gave them an edge on the battlefield. One of their greatest victories was the Battle of Castagnaro in 1387, where they managed to defeat the Verona forces with a carefully planned strategy. The White Company was also known for their opportunistic nature. When not hired by the ruler, they often plundered rural areas for money and food, creating fear among the local people. Although these actions made them feared, they remained a highly sought-after force by wealthy Italian cities in need of military superiority. Their record is documented in the works of historians such as Giovanni Villani, who describes their huge impact on the war in Italy. Hawkwood himself was so revered that he was given an honorary burial in Florence, with a fresco of him still visible in the Cathedral of Santa Maria del Fiore. Although they eventually disbanded, the White Company left a strong mark on European history as a symbol of mercenary power, tactics, and controversy in the Middle Ages. Varangian Guard. The Varangian Guard was an elite force of mercenaries who served the Byzantine Empire from the 10th to the 14th century. They were of Norse, Scandinavian, and Slavic origin, mainly from what is now Sweden, Norway, and Russia. These troops were recruited to serve as personal bodyguards for Byzantine emperors and were known for their loyalty and combat skills. The Guard was formed after a treaty between the Byzantine Empire and the Rus in 874 AD, but they gained great attention during the reign of Emperor Basil II between 976 and 1025. After helping Basil II put down a domestic rebellion, they were appointed as the emperor's personal guard. The Varangian Guard was known for their bravery in battle and became a symbol of imperial power and security. Their weaponry reflected their origins as Viking warriors. They used two-handed axes called Dane axes, swords, and large shields. In addition to being a fighting force, the Varangian Guard was also involved in diplomatic missions and court ceremonies. Some notable moments in their history include battles in Bulgaria and against the Arabs. They were also famous for their loyalty even when the emperor was deposed or killed. A popular saying in Byzantine history is that if the Byzantine army ran away, the Varangian Guard was the last one standing. Their story is recorded by Anna Komnene and other Byzantine historians. The Varangian Guard eventually weakened when more Norman and Latin mercenaries began to be recruited, but they are still remembered as a symbol of Byzantine power during its heyday. Swiss Pikemen. The Swiss pikemen were one of the most famous mercenary forces in Europe during the 15th to 16th centuries. They originated from the cantons of Switzerland and became a highly sought-after fighting force by European kingdoms. Their skill with the pike and disciplined formation tactics made them dominant on the battlefield for more than a century. Initially, the Swiss pikemen fought to defend their independence against the Habsburgs and Burgundians in the Burgundian Wars between 1474 to 1477. At the Battle of Nancy in 1477, they defeated Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, in one of their greatest victories. This victory made Switzerland famous as an indomitable army. Their combat tactics involved tight formations called phalanxes, where thousands of warriors marched with long lances, utilizing a combination of speed, strength, and discipline to crush enemy lines, including heavy cavalry. These troops not only consisted of infantry with spears, but also utilized halberds, a combination spear and axe weapon, and archers. Their reputation as mercenaries grew after Switzerland began renting out their services to other countries. They fought for France in many wars, including the Battle of Marignano in 1515. However, they were also renowned for their loyalty to contracts, rarely betraying their paymasters. In the 16th century, their dominance began to decline with the advent of firearms and modern combat formations. Nonetheless, they remained a symbol of military power in the late medieval and early Renaissance eras. Remnants of their tradition can be found in the Vatican Swiss Guard, which is an honor guard to this day. The Catalan Company. The Catalan Company was a mercenary group from Catalonia that operated in the Mediterranean region in the 14th century. The group was originally formed by Roger de Flor, a former Templar, to serve the Byzantine Empire against the Seljuk Turks. They were known for their military discipline, aggression, and outstanding combat abilities. In 1303, the Byzantine Empire hired the Catalan Company after a major defeat against the Turks. Within a few years, they won important battles against the Turks in Asia Minor, protecting Byzantine territory from the threat of invasion. However, their relationship with the Byzantines soured after Roger de Flor was assassinated in a complicated political scenario. Afterward, they rebelled and started plundering Byzantine territories. The peak of the Catalan Company controversy came when they established the Duchy of Athens and Neopatria in Greece in 1311, after defeating the Byzantine army and involving themselves in local conflicts. They ruled the region for decades, showing how mercenaries can turn into a political force. Their famous tactics involved the use of fast light infantry formations and effective maneuvers against the enemy. This reflected Catalonia's traditional military heritage, which focused on mobility and surprise attacks. Records of the Catalan Company are found in the Chronicle of Ramon Muntaner, which documents their travels and victories. Despite their eventual decline in influence, the Catalan Company remains a symbol of mercenary power capable of changing the course of history, not only on the battlefield, but also in geopolitics. Condottieri. The Condottieri were an Italian mercenary group that dominated warfare in Italy during the Renaissance period, 14th to 16th centuries. Their name comes from the word condotta, which means a military contract concluded between the commanders and the city-state or ruler who hired them. Condottieri played an important role in conflicts between city-states such as Florence, Venice, Milan, and Naples. The Condottieri were military commanders who led armies made up of professional soldiers, often recruited from abroad, such as Germany and Switzerland. They were renowned for their flexibility in fighting for whichever side paid the highest, with no permanent allegiance to any particular country. Francesco Sforza was one of the most famous condottieri, who used his military influence to become Duke of Milan in 1450. Their military tactics reflected a very pragmatic approach. Rather than fighting large, destructive battles, condottieri often preferred to skirmish or lay siege to cities to reduce losses. However, some groups were notorious for their treachery, such as Giangaleazzo Visconti, who sometimes betrayed his hiring party. Condottieri also have a reputation for their wealth and flamboyant lifestyles, with many of them using their income to fund art and architecture. For example, Ludovico Gonzaga, a condottiere, became a patron of the arts in Mantua. Although eventually replaced by the permanent military in the late 16th century, condottieri left a significant legacy in Italian military and political history, reflecting the role of mercenaries in Renaissance geopolitical conflicts. Almogavars. The Almogavars were mercenaries from Spain active during the 13th to 14th centuries. They were renowned for their bravery, aggression, and unique fighting style, which made them one of the deadliest armies of their time. The Almogavars originated from the mountainous regions of Aragon and Catalonia, and they were renowned for their loyalty to the King of Aragon, although they were often hired by other powers, including the Byzantine Empire. A distinctive feature of the Almogavars was their light weaponry, which consisted of short swords, javelins, throwing spears, and knives. They wore minimal armor, which allowed for high mobility, and were famous for attacking quickly, often at night. Almogavars have a reputation for brutality, often attacking with their signature war cry, Desperta Ferro, which means awaken the iron, while striking their weapons to create sparks as a sign of intimidation. One of their greatest achievements was when they helped the Byzantine Empire against the Seljuk Turks in the early 14th century. However, their relationship with the Byzantines soured after the assassination of their leader, Roger de Flor. In retaliation, the Almogavars launched the Catalan Revenge by attacking and plundering Byzantine territory. Records of the Almogavars are found in the Chronicle of Ramon Muntaner, which documents their victories and their important role in Mediterranean military history. With their discipline, toughness, and distinctive fighting style, the Almogavars became a symbol of Spanish military power during the Middle Ages. The Mamertines. The Mamertines were mercenaries from Campania, southern Italy, who were active in the 3rd century BC. Their name comes from Mars, the Roman god of war, and means sons of Mars. They were originally mercenaries recruited by Agathocles, ruler of Syracusa, to fight in the conflict in Sicily. However, after Agathocles' death in 289 BC, the Mamertines turned into an uncontrollable force. Having been left without an employer, the Mamertines captured the Sicilian city of Messina through violence and massacre. They made the city their power base and began a series of raids on surrounding territories for loot and resources. For decades, they dominated northeastern Sicily, creating fear among local communities. However, their role became more significant in history when they appealed for help from the two great powers of the time, the Romans and the Carthaginians, to defend Messina from the Syracusans. This intervention triggered the First Punic War between 264 and 241 BC, a major decisive conflict between Rome and Carthage for control of the western Mediterranean. Although they were a small army, the Mamertines had a huge impact on the geopolitics of the region. Their role in inviting the Romans to Sicily indirectly helped the Romans establish a strong foothold on the island, beginning their expansion beyond Italy. Records of the Mamertines are found in the works of Greek historian Polybius, who described them as an opportunistic army that exploited the power vacuum to their advantage. The Mamertines are a clear example of how mercenaries can influence the course of history. The Gallowglass. The Gallowglass was an elite Scottish mercenary group active in Ireland from the 13th to the 16th century. Their name comes from the Gaelic Gallowglass, meaning armed foreign servants. They were descendants of Norse Gaelic immigrants from the Scottish Hebrides and Highlands, who were renowned for their combat skills as heavy infantry. Gallowglass were armed with distinctive weapons, such as a large two-handed sword, claymore, and a long battle axe, and wore chainmail armor that made them extremely formidable in close combat. They were known for their bravery and discipline, making them a highly respected and feared army. In the 13th century, many Irish chieftains began employing Gallowglass to bolster their forces against the English in an effort to defend their sovereignty. The Gallowglass were often paid in land or livestock, demonstrating their importance in local conflicts. One of their defining moments was involvement in the Irish resistance against English forces during the 9 Years' War, 1594 to 1603. However, with the increasing use of firearms on the battlefield in the 16th century, the role of the Gallowglass began to fade. Their troops were replaced by modern lightly armed infantry, such as the Kern, who were more suited to changes in military technology. Accounts of Gallowglass can be found in various Irish and English chronicles, including the work of historians such as John Dimmock. They left a legacy as a symbol of Irish resistance and a vivid example of mercenary power in medieval conflict. The Free Companies. The Free Companies were mercenary groups that operated in Europe, particularly France and Italy, during the 14th century, with the peak of their activity occurring during the 100 Years' War, 1337 to 1453. They consisted of soldiers who lost their jobs when temporary peace treaties or truces were enacted, and they made a living by selling military services to willing parties. The group gained a reputation for their brutal tactics. When not for hire, they often loot villages, demand ransom, and create chaos in rural areas. One of the most notorious groups was the Grand Compagnies, which was active in France after the War of Crécy, 1346. They consisted of soldiers from various countries, including England, Germany, and Spain. The Free Companies played an important role in local wars, including conflicts between Italian cities such as Florence, Pisa, and Milan. Their leaders, such as Sir John Hawkwood of the White Company, became legendary figures, respected for their military tactics, but also feared for their brutality. While effective on the battlefield, their presence was often a burden to the local population, as they had no loyalty except to the highest payers. Attempts to control them often failed, such as when French King Jean II tried to get rid of them by redirecting them to Spain during the Papal Crusades, but they returned with more force. The free companies are a true reflection of the impact mercenaries had in Europe's protracted conflicts and how they could be a threat even to those who hired them. The Cretan Archers. The Cretan Archers were a group of mercenaries who originated from the island of Crete and were widely known in the ancient Greco-Roman world as highly skilled archers. They first appeared in historical records during the Greek classical period, around the 5th century BC, and continued to play an important role in military conflicts until the era of the Roman Empire. The Cretan archers' main skill lies in their ability to shoot long distances with incredible accuracy. They used short bows that allowed for a high rate of fire, making them ideal troops for attacking enemies from a distance and providing support to infantry. In addition, they are known for their agility on the battlefield, allowing them to attack quickly and retreat before the enemy can retaliate. Cretan archers were often hired by Greek city-states such as Athens and Sparta during wars between polis. They also played an important role in Alexander the Great's army, where they provided crucial support in various military campaigns, including the Battle of Gaugamela, 331 BC. In the Roman era, Cretan archers remained an important part of the Roman army as auxiliaries. They helped strengthen the flank of the Roman army in battles against enemies such as Carthage and the Parthian Empire. The works of ancient historians such as Xenophon and Polybius, who describe them as vital elements in ancient military strategy. Their existence demonstrates the important role mercenaries played in the wars of the classical era and their impact on victory on the battlefield.